What is going on, guys? It is Fortis here. I hope you're having a great day. Today we are talking about territory capture. We're talking about the second part of territory capture. And in this video, we're going to be revealing more details about territory capture. This is the new update, which is coming to Star Trek Fleet Command. And the question we're asking today, how do you take over territories in this new mode, which is highly anticipated, by the way, by many players, as this is a mode which is sought to bring many STFC players back to the game, available on Android and iOS. So how do we take over territories in territory capture? Well, this is a post which was put up recently, and it does share some in-depth information and a lot of questions you may be asking about too. So what we know from previous videos is the fact that territory capture is going to be in the origin sector, which is located, we suspect, pretty close to Borg space. So for those who took part in the Borg arc, this origin sector, this territory capture, is going to be in deep space, very close to Borg space. And we kind of anticipate it's going to be a fairly large area because there are many territories to take over, and we're going to go over that in this video. So we're going to be discussing the concept of, how do you actually take over territory, because that's incredibly important, and the various buffs and services which you'll be able to take advantage of with your alliance as you participate in this territory capture. So this is an incredibly important update, and it is something which we've been waiting for this a long time. We kind of hoped that something like this would arrive with armadas, and a lot of people were actually disappointed with armadas. It wasn't the thing that we were hoping for. And this is actually, some developers have shared this with me, that they kind of hoped territory capture would be more like armadas. And when armadas was released a couple of months ago, that wasn't the case. So now that we have territory capture, this is what armadas was supposed to be like. So what is a takeover? So each zone has a set time for once a week. So like look here, once a week, a takeover is taking place. So takeovers last. We kind of thought, okay, takeovers would last at the top of every hour, but this is not what is happening. So takeovers last either 30, 45, or 60 minutes. And we're guessing this depends on the zones, on the tiers. But once a takeover is started, you tap on the zone you want to participate in, pay the resource required, and get your alliance ready. So there is a cost to this. But as we know from previous videos, there is no cost associated with a tier 1 takeover. So again, we know that first of all, to participate in territory takeover, it is gated by mission. So the fact that it's gated by mission means that you have to complete this mission, and no one can just enter territory capture. This mission is to kind of track who is participating in territory capture and to work with the bugs, etc. So this mission is incredibly important. And once you complete the mission, then you can take part in tier 1 takeover, which doesn't require any resources. And once you have tier 1 set, that is when you can go into the rest of the tiers, provided you pay this resource. So again, this is pretty interesting stuff. So we're gonna watch the video later on. But so yes, once an alliance joins a takeover, everyone in the alliance receives notification and an Armada chat message. So this is going to be the annoying bit. So if you thought that you're walking around with your Android device, with your iPhone device, you'll be receiving a in-app notification for territory takeovers pretty frequently. So I really hope they'll allow us an option to turn off these notifications when we don't want them, because this is something which I've really complained about, and a lot of players have complained about the fact that you receive these notifications. Yes, I want to be notified when I'm attacked, when my shield is down, but do I really want those Armada and territory notifications? Maybe not, maybe not. Okay, so the Alliance button will pulsate red. So this is pretty important too. We're having a new UI set up. So when territory capture is taken over your Alliance, the Alliance button is going to pulsate red to know that you're ready to go. And in the Alliance window, a bunch of zones which will pop up, and you'll be ready to kind of go to these zones and take over the territory. And now you have the option of using your discovery to get there with your ships a lot faster. This is something which I think a lot of players are going to utilize. And if you haven't been upgrading your USS Discovery, now is the time, because it is a pretty essential ship for territory takeover. So here we have the territory takeover embassy window. So once you click on a system, and once you click, there'll be like a little button. This will show you the territory system window, and it will show you the services which will be available to you, and the rules and the alliances involved. So it shows here the dogs, the cats. These are the alliances on the development server, but essentially it shows there's a territory taking place, and people can score different points in this territory, and you'll score the most points when takeover ends. Now keep in mind, during the last few minutes of territory takeover, points are I think, is it doubled or tripled? It's definitely possibly tripled. So the fact that you can gain a lot of points during the last few minutes of territory takeover is really going to benefit some alliances. So yeah, to score more points, you have to capture zones. So you can only capture zones north and south of the zone which you're capturing. You can't capture left and right. This is to kind of dissuade some of the big alliances from taking over all of the territories, and it'll give the smaller alliances a chance to take over those territories. So the fact is, you score points by capturing nodes within these territories, and so yes, so 1 point per minute for your alliance, but capturing a capture node gives 3 extra points per minute. So ideally, what you may want to do is have your top level players patrol the system, particularly the outer edges of the system, and then you'll have your smaller guys take on these nodes. So when you have other alliances coming in to try and take the nodes, your top level players will come in and hopefully destroy the ship before they get to the node. I mean, this is what the developers are hoping for. Whether or not this will happen on your server is completely up to you and your server makeup. Like, I don't know what your server is, but on my server 8, it's going to be especially interesting because I know we have a few top level alliances on the server. So yes, so if an alliance wants to capture territory, they should prioritize capturing the capture nodes. But to capture the capture nodes, you're going to need some pretty strong players, and this is where a lot of alliances are actually going to fail. So yeah, a lot of alliances are actually going to fail, and some alliances may actually need to merge at this point. Whether they do or not, I don't know, but I suspect many will merge because the benefits of territory capture are simply too great to ignore. So again, here we have the capture node. Looks very much like data mining a little bit, kind of a little bit of copy pasta there in my view. But yeah, so occupy a capture node, pretty simple to do. Whether you're going to keep the node is another question entirely. So yes, so during the last third minutes of takeover, you go into overdrive mode. So this is what I was explaining about. All scores are multiplied by 3. So, you know, if you try and take over a territory in the last couple of minutes, there is a chance you can grab that territory from the alliance that was trying to take over that territory for the past hour, because you're going to accumulate all these triple points in the last few minutes, and it's really going to benefit you. So there is a kind of strategy here of whether you try to take over the territory in the space of an hour, using up all your resources to kill incoming ships, or do you go in there during the last minutes of the event and take over the territory using overdrive mode. So this is something which is going to be interesting, and there's going to be some interesting dynamics involved for sure. So once the takeover period is over, the alliance with the most points wins the zones of that system, and of course all the benefits that come with it. So this is going to be super interesting. So they will then be able to relocate their stations to the zone, mine exclusive nodes, and activate the services that zone offers. So something which isn't mentioned here, which I think should be mentioned: once you relocate your base, your P shield actually drops. So this is something which has been mentioned with the developers, but I'm not sure whether you'll be able to reactivate your P shield. But this is the reason behind this, is so players can be more competitive. But you know, if you're a level 34, level 35, your base is going to get basically cut to ribbons by level 50s attacking your base. So whether this is the most smartest move to allow your shield to drop during territory takeover is, I don't know, it's definitely interesting strategy. Whether there's going to be some player pushback on this, we'll have to wait and see. So at the start of the next takeover for that zone, the alliance that owned the zone during the last period will automatically join the takeover without having to pay the resource takeover cost. So this is pretty huge too. So your alliance won't have to pay any of those costs involved. So there is definitely an immediate benefit to taking over a zone and keeping it for the next takeover period. So we have a few FAQs about the takeover, and these are a lot of questions which players have been asking and the developers have been answering. So the first question, as long as I can pay the takeover joint fee, can my alliance capture any zone we want? And the developers are basically saying, if your alliance doesn't own any territory, you can only attempt to join takeover 1 zones. So you can't go to the top tier if you haven't really participated in alliance takeover. So if your alliance owns a territory, you can only attempt to join takeovers in an adjacent zone. This is what we were talking about earlier. You can take over zones north and south of you, but not adjacent zones, not the left and the right zones. And this is to kind of stop whale alliances from really dominating territory takeover. And this kind of explains it. So you can go north and south, but you can't go left or right. So next question: what if I'm in a system, but my alliance has not joined the takeover as of yet? So points are only given to alliances that have joined. You will start scoring or gaining points until your alliance admiral or commodore clicks to join takeover in the zone's embassy. So you cannot relocate there until they've joined. Until they've captured the zone. So this is to kind of dissuade powerful alliances from taking over the zone. So does it matter which system my ships are in during the takeover? So the answer to this, takeover scores are calculated across the whole zone. So this is pretty important too. So how will I know that my ship is scoring? So if your ship is actively scoring during a takeover, there'll be a takeover icon on that ship in the lower bottom corner of the screen. Clicking into that zone's embassy will show the current score of all participating alliances. Now I can see a lot of bugs happening because the developers only have one server which they can test this on, and I can see in the future there'll be definitely some scoring issues. So take that with a pinch of salt. Next question, how many capture zones are there per system? There are between 4 and 20 capture zones depending on the system. So I kind of anticipate in the tier 3 systems there'll be less capture nodes. So keep that in mind too. So how do I score points on these capture nodes? So very similar to the data mining mechanics, you send the ship to the capture node, dock with it, and score points. So yes, you will receive 4 points per minute for every ship on the capture node, 3-point node bonus, and that 1 extra point for being in the system. So it is kind of complicated, but it'll be fairly consistent once you start participating in Takeover. So the next question, can I attack players in a zone during a takeover if my alliance is not participating in that takeover? So the answer to this is yes, you can freely attack and move around zones during this takeover. So this is kind of interesting. So if you have an alliance and you have kind of sister alliances, pardon me, you can help out. So next question. Sorry about that. Can I view other systems in the same zone if I don't have a ship or base in those systems? So the answer to this is no. You can only view zones where you have a base or a ship. So this is important too. So you can't, this is kind of like deep space where you can't just look at a system and go to it. You have to have a ship inside the system. So question, do I get points for destroying other players' ships or stations during takeover? No, you can only get points for having ships present in the system or docked on a capture node. So this is important too, but is this really enough to deter whales and high level players from completely ripping to shreds other people's stations? Because remember, there is no PvP banned in territory takeover. So again, another important question. And the last question we have, if my ships are docked at home and my station is in takeover zone, will they score points? No. So ships docked in stations will not score points during a takeover. So this is important too. So yeah, some pretty important questions here, and this will all become apparent once you join territory takeover. So let's look over the video quickly. But yeah, guys, thank you for, of course, liking and subscribing to my content. And don't forget, you can check out more Fortis gaming content on the channel. Okay, so let's check out the video. Here we go. So that has been a look at territory capture. The information is pretty cool, the video is pretty cool, but how will it all pan out? Keep checking Fortis Gaming for all the latest on territory capture. All right, see you guys.